as trained volunteers. This project, in partnership with Altadena Seed Incorporated, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and Tuckman Geospatial, aims to collect vegetation surveys throughout Southern California's mountains and valleys ecological region. This data will be used by the CDFW and partners to support vegetation classification and mapping, eventually leading to the production of a fine-scale vegetation map for use in conservation planning, resource assessment, restoration, and wildfire risk planning. So we are very excited to have Anna with us. This is a new partnership between the staff in Sacramento and their contract work, conservation work, and local chapters. So this is kind of an innovative approach, and we are very excited about it. Next slide. Our next speaker after Anna will be Cristhian Mace. He's the natural area biologist for the County of Los Angeles. Oh, I forgot to say Anna is in Sacramento. So she's going to join us on Zoom. Cristhian is here, and you'll see her in a minute. And he spearheads an exciting effort to map and document the native plant communities across Los Angeles County's natural areas. In collaboration with CNPS, that's the staff office, this initiative is developing a comprehensive vegetation data set to guide conservation planning, habitat restoration, and long-term stewardship. The data collected will directly inform the natural resource management plan for each natural area. So this is at county level, Los Angeles County level, ensuring science-driven strategies shape the future of these protected landscapes. And then next slide. Last not least, our speaker is Nina Raj. Nina Raj, and she's also here, aims to protect biodiversity, foster resilience against major climatic events, and degradation of natural areas by implementing a decentralized network of heat banks at nature centers across the Los Angeles basin. By forming this partnership across the region, we can create redundancy in conserved seed populations. You know what happens when the nature center burns, right? So Nina Raj is the founder of Altadena Seed Library and holds certifications as a UC naturalist, UC Master Gardener, Girls Naturalist at Eaton Canyon, Theodore Payne Native Plant Landscaper, Ayurvedic Herbalist, I hope I pronounced that right, and Grow LA Gardens Training. So with no further ado, I now give the speaker to Anna, and she's speaking on Zoom, and we hope you can hear her. You have to be very quiet.
Hello, can everyone hear me okay? All right, my name is Anna Tobio. I'm an Associate Vegetation Ecologist with the California Native Plant Society's Vegetation Program. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I'm excited to be here with you all virtually and looking forward to this program. Today, I'm going to be talking about a new project that CNPS is undertaking, which is a Southern California vegetation surveying project. So a little background and context on this project. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife and CNPS, in collaboration with many partners, are working to develop a statewide vegetation classification system and a fine-scale vegetation map, all of which is supported by field-based vegetation surveys. So if you look at the map here on the right, you'll see all the areas in green have already been surveyed, classified, and mapped. All the areas in yellow are kind of in progress, and they're well on their way to having a completed vegetation map. And all the areas in gray are areas we have not yet assessed. So as you can see in the bottom there, I circled this big region of Southern California that we have not yet assessed. So no surveys have been conducted, and no classification system or mapping. As a result, The Department of Fish and Wildlife has funded Althouse and Mead, which is an environmental consulting firm, CNPS, Tuckman Geospatial, another consulting firm, and a few others to conduct vegetation surveys throughout this unsampled region. And we've been calling this the Southern California Mountains and Valleys ecoregion. So we plan to conduct thousands of vegetation surveys, which will eventually be analyzed to review and update classification of Southern California vegetation types and create a fine-scale vegetation map of the region. This is a more zoomed-in look of the project area. So everything that is grayed out is not currently being assessed for this project. All the blue dots are surveys that have been done in the past for other projects or purposes, but can still be utilized for this project potentially. And all the green triangles are surveys that were conducted by our partners, Althouse and Mead, last year. So this year, Althouse and Mead and CNPS botanists are hoping to kind of fill in the gaps in this map and conduct more surveys throughout this region. Here is an even more zoomed in version of the map that kind of focuses on the San Gabriel Mountains chapter area. As you can see, a lot of the chapter area falls within the project area. There's, portions to the north, near Palmdale, Lancaster, and some fingers further south that aren't currently being focused on for this project, but overall CNPS is really excited to be focusing on your chapter's area and surveying and assessing vegetation within your region. So I'm going to discuss the timeline of a type of project like this a little bit. The first step is to conduct vegetation surveys, and that is what we are currently working on. That is what is in progress. CNPS botanists have just started getting out into the field this month. Afterwards, we analyze that data and develop a classification system based on those surveys. And the final step is to use all that information to develop a fine-scale vegetation map of the region. So I'm going to dive into all of these a little bit more, but keep in mind this is a multi-year process and we're kind of just at the beginning of it. So this project, as I said, is focused on conducting the vegetation surveys, and here are some of the goals for our 2024 and 2025 season. We plan to conduct 2,200 vegetation surveys. With the work that Althouse and Mead has done last year, we are well on our way to reaching this target. And these surveys follow the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and CNPS Rapid Assessment and Releve Protocol, which I will talk about a little bit more, but it generally assesses patterns of vegetation communities, and it works to collect data on species presence, species cover, vegetation heights, soil type, topography, GPS location, and a lot more. We are also planning to collect 800 herbarium vouchers within this region, and we are working to identify sensitive natural communities. And these sensitive natural communities are just those that are just inherently sensitive. They could be endemic to California or isolated or restricted in range, or even ones that have potentially been reduced by human activities. So the first step is conducting vegetation surveys, and I'm going to describe that process and our methodology a little bit more. And this photo here, which was taken further north, is a great way to help visualize our surveying protocol. So with our protocol, we're looking for patterns of vegetation across the landscape and identifying vegetation communities. So in this image, you can see kind of in the riparian lowlands, there's kind of that band that's mainly comprised of arroyo willow. And then if you work up onto the hill slope, you'll see a bitterbrush scrub community, and kind of out in the distance there, you'll see a cheatgrass medusa head grassland. So if a crew of botanists were to visit this location, they will see these, distinct different vegetation communities, go to each one and collect data at each. And as I mentioned, they collect, a list of the species present, the percent cover for each species, slope, aspect, soil type, and a bunch more, just to kind of get at these unique characteristics of these areas. And these are patterns that you can see aerially as well. So if you look on the right here, you'll see a map where you can see those patterns in the landscape as well. So for this effort, having local knowledge is extremely helpful. Like, we do our research before we go out. We look at maps and botanical databases like CalFlora. to help identify areas of interest, but we would greatly appreciate any input from chapter members or local experts on areas to visit that would have interesting vegetation communities. And as Gabby mentioned earlier, we are planning a few different trips in your region, in the Santa Clarita watershed, in kind of the Angeles National Forest, and down in the Chino Hills area. So we would love to collaborate with you guys on those areas. And all of our surveys are collected digitally. We collect them with these applications called Field Maps and Survey 123. So botanists, when they're out in the field, they're using either a smartphone or a tablet. They reach their location, they can put down a GPS location, which you kind of see there on the left, and then they can collect all the data on the tablet or cell phone as well. So, they enter the slope, what species they see, and all of that. And this is kind of then automatically uploaded to our database. And it's a very streamlined and standardized process that makes data collection easy. The next phase.
There's a couple of questions that people have raised online. One person asked, what does fine scale mean? And what is the resolution? And I think you just answered what software they're using. And then another question was, are previous surveys used, like those prepared for EIRs, et cetera?
Yes, I'll get into the fine scale a little bit more. I think we're maybe saving questions for the end.
Okay, sorry about that.
I'm not 100% sure. But yes, we'll take any afterwards. So thank you, I appreciate that. So phase 2 of this project, which we are, not yet at, but it's in the future, is doing a hierarchical classification of vegetation surveys. So, I like to think of this as similar to plant classifications. You have your kingdom, order, family, genus, etc. And we have a similar system for vegetation communities. So that includes class, subclass, formation, all the way down to the alliance and association level. So for me, it's kind of helpful to think of alliance as similar to a genus level and association similar to a species level. So we can walk through this example real quick just to get a good understanding of it. So in this example here, we're in a forest and woodland, working our way down. We're in a temperate forest, a warm temperate forest, a Madrean forest, California forest, all the way down. And oh, look, okay, we're in a Douglas oak forest. So Douglas oak dominates and characterizes the area we're in. But we can even be more specific than that, which is where associations come in. So is it Douglas oak co-dominating with some coast live oak? Is it Douglas oak mixed in with some gray pine? So the whole goal of this phase is to review classification systems we already have for other areas of Southern California and update it to make sure we're not missing any gaps. It's also to look at the data we collected and assign an alliance and an association to the surveys that we collected. And then the last step of this whole process is developing a fine scale vegetation map. So geospatially assessing all the data we collected and satellite imagery to create a map of vegetation alliances and associations. And this photo here is a great example. You can see we kind of have different types of, forest in the center potentially, and there's also different types of grasslands weaving in and shrublands as well. So once this map is created, it will be assessed for accuracy by crews on the ground, but the final product of these maps are useful for so many different things, from, identifying these sensitive natural communities to wildfire planning, wildlife habitat modeling, conservation work, resource assessments, and even just simple land management. So to help for this effort and this project, CNPS is hoping to host 2 vegathons in Southern California this summer. And a vegathon is a gathering of botanists, ecologists, volunteers, hobbyists, really anyone that wants to join to help collect vegetation data. I've never been to one of these events myself, as I'm relatively new with CNPS, but I've heard they're a lot of fun. Below here are some photos from past vegathons, and they seem like a great way to, socialize, get outside in some beautiful locations, botanize together, and contribute your time and knowledge to this big effort. So the two vegathons we are hoping to have, the first one is July 11th to 13th in the San Bernardino Mountains, kind of near Lake Arrowhead. And the second one is between August 7th and 11th in the San Gabriel Mountains near Paradise Springs area. I've developed this online survey that I will get all your contact information somehow and make sure to send this survey out to everyone. And it's kind of to gauge interest and determine best dates and locations and some of the logistics for these vegathons. But the events are typically, there'll be nearby lodging or accommodations, and we'll split up into teams with a CNPS botanist and go out on day hikes within these regions and conduct vegetation surveys. So it's a great opportunity to, contribute your skills and knowledge, or even just learn more about the area and the project. And thank you so much for having me. I look forward to answering any questions either now or at the end. And I've included my contact information here, as well as Julie, our program director, and Paul, our data specialist, who are both working on this project.
Thank you, Anna. Let's see, there were a couple questions online. One question is about fine scale and what is the resolution?
Yes, I believe we're hoping to map these to the alliance level. So I'm not sure I could give you like a pixel by pixel number, but essentially vegetation alliances or these communities will be mapped. Let's see what other questions are in here.
Yeah, apologies. We need to move on to the next presentation.
Okay.
We need to be out of here.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'll take any questions at the end with everyone else. And I guess
all the questions at the end.
Next.
Sorry. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
And if you could stop your share, we will share.
Yes. I am, here we go. Looking for the button. Found it.
Thank you.
Let's make sure that we are open. I know, huh? And there we are. Yeah. And let us go back here. Sorry, everyone. We hate this part of it too. And okay, so let's go.
There we go. Yeah.
Let me hide the floating. So someone is up. Please just not me. Let me just. Yeah. You should be able to hide the floating. You should just start talking, and I will do the hide the floating meeting control.
Good evening, everybody.
Stand over here, brother. Sorry.
All right.
Because here's our audio for the online people.
Sure. Good evening, everybody.
You'll, stand in front of the computer, but good.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
There we go. Thank you for having me tonight. I think this is a very exciting opportunity for the CNPS and for the biology to get to conduct in LA County. Good. All right, here we go. Oops. That's not going away. Okay, there we go. Am I in control with this?
Should be.
Okay.
Later. Yeah, done.
It's not working. Oh, okay. All right, so I was already introduced, but I'm just going to reintroduce some other aspects of myself. I'm the first natural areas biologist for the county. I started in December of 2023, and it has been a whirlwind. I bring 10 years of experience from consulting in Southern California, but cumulatively I have over 20 years of experience
in the SoCal area doing all sorts of environmental things. I'm a graduate of Cal State Long Beach, Go Beach, and the county hired a biologist because ultimately they want natural resource management plans written for every single natural area, which is currently at 9 and growing, and one resource management plan for the 15 and also counting wildlife sanctuaries that we have in the Antelope Valley. I'm also here to collect baseline data to go into those resource management plans, participate in community outreach like this, which has been one of the most fun and impactful parts of the job, and and to create that resource management plan. Okay, so Southern California is incredibly ecologically diverse, but it is not well studied. So this is just the perfect opportunity to add a lot more data to our databases. And habitat mapping is critical for resource management, especially when I'm trying to write resource management plans, conservation planning, and climate resistance. The CNPS has the expertise, and now is the perfect time to integrate efforts with this organization and the CDFW funded effort. So as Anna mentioned, approximately 6.4 million acres of Southern California ecoregions will be thoroughly sampled using standardized sampling protocols to complete a fine-scale vegetation classification. This work started in spring of the 24, and it's going to go through March of 26. This is funded by the CDFW. It's going to cover Southern California coast, the mountains and valleys, and we saw the exact same figure on Anna's slide. I just have highlighted in yellow the sampling areas for this current effort. What's really exciting is that we get a glimpse into what areas within Los Angeles County are going to be highlighted.
You need to move over a little bit.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Sorry about that. I want to highlight some of the natural areas. We have Acton Wash, which is a tiny dot in the north there in the center. We have Castaic Lake, the larger area to the northwest. Devil's Punch Bowl we see into the northeast. Placerita Canyon brings us down to this side of the San Gabriels there on the western side. Santa Fe Dam over there on the southeast. Tujunga Ponds, that tiny little blip in the center of LA County. Vasquez Rocks back up onto the north side of the San Gabriels. And Whittier Narrows, which brings us back down into the LA Basin. So what we have here is a beautiful representation of a lot of different ecosystems that get to be sampled. The San Gabriel Mountain chapter has some priority areas, which include the Santa Fe Dam, the San Gabriel River Park, the latest addition to our natural areas, Whittier Narrows, and the Puente Hills Landfill Park. There's just so much opportunity for what this chapter can do. As was mentioned previously, we can do site familiarization walks, we can do vegetation mapping and data collection, and we can do volunteer recruitment and training. This is just an example of some of the standardized methodology that CNPS uses to conduct their protocol survey. This is what percent cover looks like. This is how you gauge what percent cover looks like when you're looking at different species. This is the kind of thing that we can practice together so that we can all have a standard. We can all get calibrated. As it was mentioned previously, there are two ways we can do this, through rapid assessment and through relevé. And this contributes to the CNPS Manual of California Vegetation and the CDFW's classification system. This is an example of what the output can look like. This is an example of the Mojave Desert. And you can see that fine scale resolution that Anna was talking about, where it's down to the alliance level, and it's giving creosote bush. So we can have this kind of, eventually we can have this kind of detailed mapping for our Southern California region. This came to, I pulled this from BIOS, from the CDFW website for biogeographic information in the observation system. This is going to help improve our understanding of rare plant habitats, what fire resilient zones look like, restoration potential, and where our wildlife corridors can be found. Where is this going? Ultimately, everything I'm trying to do at the county is to be fed into the resource management plan. I will be saying that a lot. And it will support how the management strategies that we implement for the natural areas and the wildlife sanctuaries. What we find can feed into the plan, and that's how we can determine what kind of goals and objectives we want to create. We can support the conservation, recreation, and educational goals, and this aligns with tribal stewardship, climate planning, and regional connectivity efforts. So there are a number of ways that we can get involved. We can join surveys and plant ID workshops. We can host community training sessions. We can assist in data entry and review. I think next steps can look like scheduling outreach opportunities and syncing with the CNPS vegetation team's timeline, because we don't want to sample the exact same areas they've been, and we have the opportunity to sample a lot more. To close it up, I think mapping is stewardship, because the better we know our lands, the better we can protect it. And I just want to thank you all for supporting, collaborating science, conservation, and community. And if y'all have any questions, you can contact me at cmace@parks.lacounty.gov. I'm involved in all sorts of biological studies and projects that I'm trying to kick off throughout the county. So depending on where you are and what you're interested in, there could be something coming up. So if you're curious, please reach out, and thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. We need to change to the next presentation.
So we don't have to stop the share. We just that's why we do it.
Yes.
And
And then
presentation is on the right, under those two arrows at the top.
And then, no, sorry, apologies. No, other one. Yep. Yeah, I just need to get to the exact right thing. I was trying to get rid of the floating bar here. That's,
You do that after.
yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And hide
There.
floating meeting controls. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Awesome. No worries. I don't envy that task. Thank you so much. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Oh God. Okay, there we go. Super good. My name is Nina Raj. I was introduced earlier as well. For that, Gabi. But I'm a Joseph naturalist and a Joseph Eaton Canyon, a UC naturalist, a master gardener, and I study seeds. So I'm going to be talking to you today about seed banking. Mic up a little bit. Is that better? Yeah. Okay, great. So I run Altadena Seed Library. Altadena Seed Library is a growing network of seed exchange boxes, educational resources, and conservation initiatives.
Like you're drinking water.
Is that better? Am I doing? Keep it there. Okay. All right. You got it. Thank you. Cool. Yeah. So Altadena Seed Library basically just helps to combat a lot of our different inequity issues in Los Angeles. We have a lot of state inequity, lack of access to green space, lack of access to fresh produce. So through the distribution of free seeds and seed education, we can kind of help people solve some of those issues. We had about a little under 10 seed libraries as of last year. We've been running since 2021. But in the next month, we'll have a little under 40 locations across LA. So here's a location in South LA at one of our recovery houses. And we're partnering with Angel City Lumber. So all of these will be manufactured from trees that came down actually from Altadena. So a deodar cedar will be manufactured into seed libraries that will then get to return to Altadena. But I'm not here to talk to you about seed libraries. I'm here to talk to you about seed banking. And seed banking operates at a very different timeline. So a lot of people are kind of under the misapprehension that seeds are inert, that they are not alive, that they either kind of work or they don't. But seeds are living beings, and they're kind of amazing. Imagine that you pack everything you would need for a trip for like 100 years, and then you pack yourself into your suitcase. That's basically what a seed is doing. So they're incredible, and if they're properly dehydrated and processed and stored, they can survive for like 60, 70, 80 years. So they're pretty amazing. Why is it important? Well, it's no surprise to anyone in this room that California is one of the most biodiverse regions in the world. It's also no surprise that we are in a biodiversity crisis. We are losing biodiversity at an alarming rate. We're suffering from habitat loss and habitat fragmentation. And climate change is really changing the way that our ecosystems live and thrive. So we're endeavoring to save seeds basically to protect that biodiversity, protect the genetic integrity of rare and endangered plants, and to ensure against major climatic events or degradation due to climate change. Myself and Cristhian and our co-docent Max, or my co-docent Max, were working on a restoration project last year, and basically like the timeline needed to shift because we didn't have those seeds readily available. When you're working on a restoration project in a wild area, you want to use hyperlocal seeds, but we had basically had to like wait until the next year to have those seeds on hand, wait for the plant to go to seed and then collect and process that seed. But if you have a ready supply in your seed bank, then you can just draw on that for restoration projects. So I mentioned earlier I'm a docent at Eaton Canyon, and I started in 2022, I think. And Marianne in the garden group knew that I really liked seeds and had a special interest in that. And so she basically put me on like pruning duty. I would collect seeds and then take them home and process them at night. And every week I would hear that there was like some seed cabinet somewhere in Eaton Canyon. There was like some cupboard full of seeds. And finally, Max got his hands on the key. And so we opened it up and we looked at these seeds. And it was pretty amazing that everyone had this impulse to like save seeds. Everyone was really eager to collect and preserve these amazing plant lineages at Eaton Canyon. But it was a mess, right? There was no organizational strategy. And someone even, we found a latex glove filled with Encelia californica. Like people were really creative. If that person is in this room, good on you, great to use what you have. But Max started testing some of them, and it turned out that many of them were no longer viable. Oh yeah, is that better? Better. Okay, you're good, you're good. Do you want me to hold it? No. Okay. Is that good? Okay. Well, it turned out that many of the seeds were no longer viable. So this is just a testament to training, right? So the more we know about seeds, the more we know about dehydration, processing, storage, the more we can preserve these seeds. And so it really just fueled my desire to set up a seed bank at Eaton Canyon. And we had the will from Eaton Canyon, we had the support from CNPS, so we were really, really grateful for that. And so we endeavored on a 3-part workshop series in partnership with CNPS, where we collected seeds, we processed them, we stored them. This was all kind of part of that broader restoration plan that I was talking about earlier. And we inflated our numbers so that we could have a little bit for the seed bank, right? So this is kind of what we were holding in our minds when we talk about what a seed bank looks like at a nature center. It's not a lot. It's a little bit of equipment. It's a refrigerator. It's some equipment that you can store in a cupboard or kind of off to the side. So it's not a huge footprint, but it was, I thought I was really excited about it. We were midstream on setting it up. In my opinion, I think nature centers provide a unique opportunity for seed banking. They're adjacent to natural spaces. You have docent naturalist staff. You have volunteers. Everyone's hearts are in the right place. And I think anybody who's volunteering at a nature center really cares, right, about protecting that biodiversity. And so the proposal is to store seeds in cool, dry conditions, dehydrated and refrigerated. You have short-term storage, medium storage, and long-term storage. We're mostly talking about short to medium-term storage, which is a couple of decades, right? So, and we would use these do no harm practices, utilizing ethical and informed field protocols. Those would be taught to docent naturalist staff. We have more than 16 nature centers across the LA County region, I think. Pretty sure, Cristhian, double checking on that. But these are all opportunities to preserve these plant lineages across Los Angeles. Think of the opportunities, think of the potential, right? So here are some training topics that we might focus on. Vegetation mapping, as my co-presenter spoke to earlier. Seed needs assessment plans. This is when you determine exactly how many seeds you need, and you basically you study the density, as Kristen was talking about earlier, and you determine exactly what's relevant for different restoration projects. Proper seed collection methods, seed processing and equipment, dehydration, storage, labeling, and organization, so you don't get a latex glove full of Ensella californica. So this is what we were holding in our minds, and we were pretty excited about it. It was going really well. And then, you know, the fires happened. And I was really beating myself up. I think a lot of us, you know, were processing grief in those moments. I'm sure people who have been at Eaton Canyon much longer than I have are holding a lot more than I am. But I think my bargaining mindset was really telling me that there was something more I could have done. I could have done this sooner. I could have, you know, I don't know, somehow like push this through earlier. But I was really grateful because I had those seeds from the collection workshops with me in my greenhouse, and I evacuated with them, and I was grateful to be able to have them. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I don't think that the seed bank would have saved these seeds, because look what would have happened to the refrigerator. So I got to thinking about a decentralized seed bank and the idea that nature centers could basically connect to one another and act as insurance policies for one another. So you would have backup, and it would also connect people across Los Angeles. So the idea is just that seed banks can burn, and distributing those seeds and diversifying your storage helps protect things, and not just from fire, but from so many other natural disasters. So how does it work? So let's say we are rewinding in time, we're going back, it's last fall, and Eaton Canyon is partnering with a couple of other nature centers. We run our collection workshops, and then we divide our collection into several different buckets. And then we send a little bit to our partner nature centers. We send it off, package it up. They receive it, maybe they receive a little box, and then they put it on our shelf. So maybe it's a refrigerator and there's a shelf labeled Eaton Canyon. They just stick our seeds on the shelf and that's it, they go about their day. Then, let's say a fire hits, again, could be any other disaster. Could also be that maybe we just don't have the seeds we need for a restoration plan. We need to call on those seeds. We need to call on those other nature centers as a backup. And from my understanding with Eaton Canyon, it's going to be a long road, right? We need to take our time. We need to observe how the earth is responding. We need to run a whole new vegetation mapping exercise, determine what stands are at risk, where invasive species have maybe come in and degraded the natural seed bank. And then we could request those seeds. So they would then be sent back to us, or we could go pick them up. And then we could begin on that restoration project for the degraded stands. So this is the main option, is the, I honestly don't know why this slide is in college. It's not meant to be. This is the main option we're working with, right? A refrigerator and a seed bank. We've had some interest from a couple of other nature centers, and I'm really interested in continuing those conversations. The other idea that I had was to set up an earthen seed bank. So there's been a lot of renewed interest in natural building. There's been a lot of incredible workshops recently, work being done by the Earthen Project, and we're in early conversations to set at least one of these up in Los Angeles. And this kind of a seed bank would protect even more from fire. But that's where I'll leave us for now. If you work at a nature center or volunteer there and are interested in maybe just training or helping to steward a seed bank at a nature center, I'd be really interested to chat more with you. And here is my information right here. Feel free to send me an email. Thank you so much for having me.
So thank you very much to all three presenters, and we do have a few minutes left for questions from the audience and from Zoom.
Yeah, there were a couple questions on Zoom for Anna about the scale of the mapping.
Yes, yeah, there were a few questions about mapping software and the scale used for mapping. As I said, I'm a little new to CNPS, so I haven't yet really done much of that work yet, but so I'm not actually sure, but I could get back to you guys on that. I will,
Yeah, thank you.
I'll find out and let you know.
Okay. There was another question for you, Anna, about are you using the Keeler-Wolf classification method?
Yes, our surveys are based on the Manual of California Vegetation, which was developed by Keeler Wolf. So kind of the manual is a library of vegetation alliances and associations, and it's kind of ongoing and has the goal of developing like this kind of common language and clear definitions for inventorying and understanding plant communities.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And there was another question online, why were the Santa Monica Mountains excluded from the SoCal Mountains and Valleys project scope? And I would add to the Verdugo Mountains there as well.
Yes, I think part of the Verdugo Mountains are included, but maybe I'm misremembering. But the Santa Monica Mountains are not included. So the California Department of Fish and Wildlife kind of determined these mapping locations, and the Santa Monica Mountains were excluded because they've already been surveyed, classified, and mapped in, I think, around 2006-ish. And I mean, of course, that those areas and a lot of the areas that have already been mapped need to be reassessed at some point. Yeah, we would love to be able to survey there now, but that's not what CDFW is funding us for at the moment.
Any other questions? Okay, Gabi would like to say a few more words.
Yes, we put this program together um, to highlight what we started planning maybe a year ago, where we want to reach out to the communities, to the urban natural area communities within our chapter, and making them accessible and preserving and then creating some habitat care in those areas that are more accessible to the general population, and at the same time are not so much known that they have really interesting species and plant communities that have been overlooked, and we can care for them, and we can engage our communities more in those local urban areas. So I was this is an example on how we can work together in the community, different organizations, with all having the same idea. We want to conserve nature, and we want to make it accessible and available to ordinary folks, not just somebody that has a lot of money to drive in the mountains. Okay. So that's the idea behind it, and I invite you to participate in the upcoming trainings and habitat care activities. You seem to be advertised a lot about weeding. Why is weeding so important? Well, it does support the natural habitat that is there. And it also does something, it gives you the opportunity to do something. Right now in our environment, it feels like we are getting bombarded with nothing but problems, and you feel helpless. What can you do? Well, you know what you can do.
Yeah.
You can weed, and at least you have your little place there. You said, well, I did something. You know, that's something nobody can take away from you, that you can do to support the natural habitat where you live, near where you live, and open it up to the community, and you know, talk to your neighbors and come and help me.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabi. And if there are no other questions, thank you. Let's give another round of applause for all three of our presenters. Thank you.